I built my whole business on a promise of telling 3 people a day. 22, I had my midlife crisis, right? Like everything fell apart. I really thought I knew who I was and what I wanted to do. And then really I didn't. And so my true journey started around 22 on how is I going to make the world a better place.
You listen to your higher self, you listen to your intuition, and you tapped into your true authentic self, and everything else is followed.
And I built a coaching company and methodology that I developed at MIT and at Stanford Business School, and I've taught all around the world. And I'm now 50.
Doesn't matter what you do, if you're not passionate for it, if the job doesn't live up to your expectation, it just becomes a job. It becomes a mundane routine thing that you do on a day-to-day basis. Welcome. This is Gull, your money mindset expert. And I'm so excited. Today we have the wonderful Lauren Zander. Welcome, Lauren.
Thank you for having me. That was adorable.
Thank you so much for joining us, Lauren. Everyone's heard your intro. They know how fabulous you are, but please, in your own words, tell everybody what it is that you do.
I am an executive life coach. So I coach in companies and I coach with individuals and I coach large groups. And I built a coaching company and methodology that I developed at MIT and at Stanford Business School. And I've taught all around the world. And I'm now 54. And I started this when I was 20.
Oh, wow. So you're a bit of a veteran there. So you've been doing this for a while, which is amazing.
I think I get OG even for, right? Like no one knew what a life coach was no one knew what it was when I started.
Oh, well, now you get them like, dime by a dozen. There's so many around the corner. I mean, when I started even specific niches, when I started Money Mindset back in 2017, no one knew what Money Mindset coach was. And now every other person is a business coach and stroke money mindset coach. I don't think you can be both. I refuse to be a business coach. I'm a specific money coach. And I think, it's just one of those things. Things have moved a lot over the last 10 years, I would say.
I would say so. Yes, definitely.
Right. So let's get started with your journey. You're now, we're speaking off the camera and you told me that you're now based in Croatia, but you don't sound it. So talk me through your journey. Where did you start and how do you end up, becoming a life coach? And you mentioned you were at MIT. So that's a completely different area to being an executive coach. It's just difficult to being paired together. And you're based in Croatia. So talk us through your journey. How did you get here?
Right. Okay. So I was an environmental studies major and got a degree like a BS from GW, George Washington University, and graduated in 92.
Wow. Okay.
92. And then my first job was at the United Nations Global Environment Facility.
Okay.
Right. And I was like, oh my God, I made it. Right. Except job. Right. It was awful. Right. It was awful. It was it was not my calling. And so basically I had by the time I was 22, I had my midlife crisis, right? Like everything fell apart. That I really thought I knew who I was and what I wanted to do. And then really I didn't. And so my true journey started around 22 on how is I going to make the world a better place.
Okay.
And that was my devotion, right? And then my joke, which isn't that funny, was I used to be save the trees, kill the people. Like I knew it, right? Save the trees, kill the people, right? And then I figured it out that if the people can't see the trees are basically fine. It's the people that can't see the trees and then I had a really good cry and then basically went into self-help, right? Started working in that industry by the time I was 22, 23. And then went to work at a company that led seminars and, was as successful as you could be back in the 90s. Mm-hmm. And then I wasn't happy there. And I went out on my own about 7 years into working for them. and basically went out on my own. And it was a reaction to what I didn't love about that company, right? I came up with a whole vision, and the vision is still the same vision, which is break into education and teach real life in education, which ultimately got me to MIT. So basically, I just started to develop a methodology that I wanted to teach in schools, teach in businesses, and teach to individuals. And they weren't all the same because it's very different constructs for how to actually be happy. And so that's what I've been doing for all my years is coaching.
Mm. So you started coaching when it was not even understood. The only coach that I think that was understood at that time was like a football coach or a sports coach,
That's
a
right.
cricket coach. So when you said a
That's
coach,
right.
like, oh, you teach sports? No, I'm a life coach. What does that mean? Now I think
Right.
everyone it's a very common term, and even in business,
Yes.
what's your professional consultant or life coach? It's even in there now. It's so
It's a
common.
miracle.
Yeah.
It's a miracle. It was not when I started, there was no such thing.
So talk me through how, and I'm not interested in terms of the strategy used. I'm more interested in the mindset that you applied to yourself in carving out a niche for yourself in an industry which is just at the the beginning stages, like literally in its infancy. The only people that in the 90s that I remember were a big thing were like Tommy Robbins, and I mean I had even because of there was lack of social media. Now with social media, everyone's not all people are known, but at that time I didn't even know about Jim Rohn and and Bob Proctor and so forth. I just know Tony Robbins because he was the most famous person internationally.
Right.
How did you carve out a niche for yourself? How did you go about working on yourself and believing the idea that you not only can make a success out of it, you can help other people doing, become successful and therefore become successful yourself? Talk me through the mindset. How did you work on that?
I am one of the nosiest think I should like I have not like if you go back to junior high, if you go back to friends I still have that knew me when I was 13, they will tell you they are not surprised at all at the career I am currently still in, right? Like none of like I was helping people find their adoptive parents, before I absolutely got into people's personal lives and thought that life was about a much deeper connection in all ways of, dealing with your dealing with your happiness, dealing with your soul, dealing with what did you come here to fulfill on. Like I didn't learn what I teach. I didn't learn what I teach. I didn't get it out of books. I was born an evangelist, right? Like I was born this, like, gotta make a difference kind of girl. And then even how I structured the methodology that I developed, I had it before I started teaching it, right? And then the minute I got my first client, right, it was like, come sit with me. I'll give you a session for free. And if you love it, right, you'll consider continuing. I built my whole business on a promise of telling 3 people a day, right? Pitching to 3 people a day. That was it. That's all I had to do. And then within first year of me starting, I was, I had too many clients in the first 6 months, right? I was just a natural at helping people.
So,
right. It was not a hard journey. Right. I've had a lot of hard journeys since, but that start was just me being wildly willing to risk it all and just want to do what I wanted to do when I was 28.
So what I'm hearing is you listen to your higher self, you listen to your intuition, and you tapped into your true authentic self, and everything else is followed. And I can relate to that because I think, because I'm an energy healer and my background is a lawyer, and it's the two. I mean, it's almost like a juxtaposition: a lawyer and a healer. It's just the two don't go together, do they at all? But I also feel that I think most self-help, people who are actually genuinely doing stuff. There's a lot of false gurus out there, let's leave them to one side. But the people who are doing this work generally have an innate ability to do so. They have this talent within them to do so. And they have this calling to help people, irrespective of the methodology. I remember when before I went into law, I was heavily, really considering medicine. And I was dead on becoming a doctor because I wanted to help people, to heal people. That was my calling. I just realized I can't stand blood. And I did 6 weeks internship at a hospital and realized I hate hospitals. I hate blood. I hate wards. I hate everything. Medicine. I'm like, I can't be a doctor. I can't stand all of this. But I still wanted to heal people, but it didn't work. So, I went towards law and I ended up finding my journey becoming a healer. So I completely understand where you're coming from.
Yes.
But here's my question to you. I think you're brushing this too easily to the side. And I want you to go back and tap into this younger 23, 24. No, you were 28 when you sort of started your
When I went out on my own, yeah. I was 28.
So this young 28-year-old in an industry which is still in its infancy.
It wasn't I just want you to know there wasn't an industry. There was nothing was there.
Well, I wonder if my understanding of that was it was Tony Robbins. That's how I remember it from the early 90s.
Robbins was a motivational, like he was running large seminars. Where I was working was large seminars. I was not trying. I was
you were doing the coaching part.
And I was not a therapist. I had no degree in any of that. So I was really like and I'm not a business coach. And even when I do business coaching, it's still about the human factor, like the being factor. The mindset is a fine word for it. So at the time,
it was even better. The industry didn't exist. Forget being in infancy. It was non-existent. Even better. So then, how? I know you managed to get the clients within 6 months, but before that, when you were starting the journey, and I know you wanted to help, how did you work on yourself? How did you have the confidence? Or the mindset to say, I can financially survive? Did you have money set aside? Did you have some savings? Did you have someone supporting you? How did you, because financial, the reason why I ask this, a lot of people have many.
No, I understand.
Yeah. But they the thing that stops them is the financial security part, So how did you overcome the so-called false financial security part from a job?
It was very easy for me to figure out, well, first of all, the job I had was not paying me very much money.
Okay.
So let's just start. I was already living with 3 roommates. I was not doing very well.
Okay.
I was not doing well. So the notion of how to replace my income or how many clients would it really take to replace the 60,000 I was making, right, wasn't very many clients a week. So I did the math and I figured out how much savings I had and how quickly, like how many clients I needed by when. And I made up my formula and believed my formula, right? And then chased down my formula. And regarding myself, the process I was already doing on my own life, which was I have dreams. I had 12 areas of life. I actually had more areas of life. I was already, before I was working and developing a method so I could teach it in front of a room, I was already practicing it myself.
Ah, okay. So you were using those techniques and the strategies on yourself, but before you started helping other people with that. That's great. Right. So I want to now you want you to turn that around and see, talk to someone who's in a similar position, who probably is in the late 20s, and they could be in another dead-end job, or they feel like it's a dead-end job, or they came into a job that they it's not what it's lived up to. I remember speaking to a doctor once, and he said, because I think we're having a discussion about enjoying your work and so forth. And this person was, going to become a surgeon. He was working to become a surgeon. So I said, your job must be really exciting, and you must enjoy it. And he kind of looked at me, and he said the most profound thing that I stayed with me everything. He goes, no, actually, it's now just become a job. And I looked at him and I thought, you are doing what what I wanted to do at one point. I can't possibly do it because I can't stand blood, for God's sakes. But you must really enjoy that helping part. And he just said, no, it's just become. Some parts are great, but most of the time it's just a job. So it really dawned on me that it doesn't matter what you do, if you're not passionate for it, if the job doesn't live up to your expectation, it just becomes a job. it becomes a mundane routine thing that you do on a day-to-day basis. So, what advice would you give to someone who's in that similar situation? Maybe they worked, because a lot of people who listen to this podcast are from corporate backgrounds, so they've studied 5, 10 years to get into these magical professions, and now probably are earning whatever, and the job is no longer living up to what they thought it was. It was no longer glamorous. It's no longer exciting. What advice would you have for them?
They're listening to their inner dialogue, not managing it. You can't, like, so many, so someone who would chase becoming a surgeon, like, unless their father made them or their parents made them, or they had to do it to please someone and they really just were fake the whole time. It's very likely that they achieved all the goals they had dreamed of that were huge and exciting to live into. And then they really never dreamed past getting it. It's the same thing I would tell someone who gets married and they dreamed all the way to their honeymoon and maybe even to their first kid. And so then they wake up with a baby and they're like, what? Him? Like there's at some point, dream comes to fruition, and then inventing the next set of dreams is required, and many people don't ever wake up to that moment. So I would check that moment first, right? Like, right, because we get bored, and really what we get is boring. And the inner dialogue. So the way I talk about it is you have a lower self, you have a highest lower self. You have a lower self. That's the one that doesn't get out of bed and eats the cookies. The highest lower self. The highest lower self is the one that's yelling at you for yesterday's cookies and tells you better go on a run and hates you for what you did and blames you, along with fear and everything everyone's saying and thinking against you, and drives you into a state of trying to be perfect, but believing everything could, your imposter syndrome is your highest lower self. And then somewhere at some point, the only thing that could argue with either of those voices is your higher self. And so what I do for a living is get people to dream a whole life. Right. And so before someone quits anything they're doing, they really should have a dream. And then I break your life out into 12 different areas. So your whole life isn't your career or money. Right. So a lot of people dump everything into career and money.
Yeah.
And then they don't take care of the rest of their lives. And then and then when career and money is actually completely working, they're not happy. And so they don't realize what in God's name is happiness, and which is an entirely different sport than just achievements.
100%,
right. And
100%.
So there's a lot to unpack in your question. Right. But that's the methodology goes after your own inner dialogue, and how you talk to yourself, and then how you dream about the future. And it's really important that people are dreaming into the future and really are in love with their dreams. And we're not, according to science, over 80% of our thoughts are negative and are fear-based. So I spend my entire career fighting for the 20% and building it. So you're really talking to what's possible in all areas of your life. And if you don't do that, you really will just end up in your parents' narrative and your reaction to what happened to you and yours, combined with level of 20%, right, of better than my parents usually is what it is.
As you were saying this, I was thinking about this, and I suppose it's 100% correct, because when we dream, when we focus on certain things, and at times it's easier to focus on certain things. I think when I went through my divorce back in 2016, 2017 is when I started my career. I didn't had a breakthrough until the end of 2017. My sole focus became making sure that my kids were taken care of. And to the level, first getting back their private education and this and that, and giving them the lifestyle and whatever. And I've done really, really well over the last 7-8 years. But it became my only focus. I've only, I thought about my health every now and again, but it wasn't a main focus. And only recently I realized, kids are growing up. I better start focusing on my health again. And so I'm slowly coming back onto focusing on my health and other aspects of my, making sure I go out with my friends and, having that kind of life, because my life became all about work. And I did very, very well. I did, in different niches and different sectors. But it took a good amount of time and a big kick up the backside that, something that happened recently in my life. A big event, a massive event in my life, which gave me the wake up call, like, oh, shoot, I am focusing on just the one thing. And because it was easier to focus on work, it was easier to say, okay, I've got this, and let me get this, and let me get that, let me get this, let me get that. And because the motivation was my kids and their well-being and their future financial security, it just kept the drive going and going and going and going. And I ignored all other aspects. And then I wondered why I wasn't happy. I mean, I was successful and everybody's great, and I'm it was fine. But my brother actually said to me, you need to think what makes you happy. And I'm like, what makes you happy? And he goes, no, outside of work, what makes you happy? And I looked at him flabbergasted because I didn't have an answer for him, because I don't. And I'm still, right. I mean, this question he asked me about 4 weeks ago, I'm still on trying to figure out what makes me happy. Oh, I like reading books. I like watching, rom-com movies and dramas and they make me happy. I like Korean dramas. I like this drama. That makes me happy. But those are just superficial things. The actual true essence of happiness, it still eludes me, and I'm still trying to figure that out. Okay, what would actually make me happy? But it's a question to ask, because we get so engrossed in doing what we need to do for that time being that life takes over, and next 5-10 years down the line, you're trapped and you can't even think about, or you don't even know who you are. You have to reintroduce yourself to your true authentic self. Because I feel like over the last 4 weeks, I've just started to unravel and think about, okay, who is Gull? What is Gull like? Like, I used to be the quirky, funny, whatever person. And I'm a real Bollywood fan. So I'm like, honestly, all of that. So, and I used to wear lots of jewelry, bangles. I don't wear any jewelry anymore. I don't wear anything. That whole person disappeared within that mother who became a businesswoman, a very successful businesswoman. But she became a businesswoman. And that's interesting, isn't it? Because you completely lose yourself trying to do something that you think you want to do, or you're supposed to do because of the appearance.
Can I ask you a few questions?
Yeah.
Last time you got laid, are we allowed to talk about this?
No, we don't talk about that. That's not a topic that I talk about on this topic.
Well, okay.
Yeah.
So
just to let you know that I'm Muslim, so I don't believe in premarital sex. Yeah. So when I got divorced, we don't.
Are you allowed to get married again?
Of course. Yes, of course.
Okay, great. So are you working on that?
No.
Exactly. That's what's missing in your life. Sorry. That'll bring out the bangles, right? Like, so I'm not kidding. And then wanting love and deserving, like, that's joy, right? That's your joy. That's your fun. That's where you, like, thinking about where you're going to, like, you can't see the whole wide world. You can't travel. You can't play. You don't sports and try all those things. If you had it, if it's probably connected to love. And then you probably haven't reinvented love. And if you were my client, I would make you. I would make you. I really would. I would be like, come on. Religion and all. It works. Religion and all. Find what would make, because you get, and then if you want to pin it back to your children, God forbid one of your kids marries someone that they would divorce, right? You would want them to get back up and have love again.
Of course,
wouldn't
yes,
you?
Of course.
Okay, great. Yeah. Well, the original, the mom or the dad, like the original needs to actually do it, because that's what puts it into the genetics of the child. All genetics are happening right now. Yeah. All genetics are happening right now. They're not done. You didn't. So you're still setting the precedent for what's possible for your children. Right. And so the happier you are, the more you see the world thrive. Like, that's what will go into the definition of life, love, and happiness.
Absolutely.
And so I break life out into 12 different areas. I would say, you see, you also have to write the dream. Writing a dream and sitting down with your higher self and asking yourself, what relationship do you want to with yourself? What would that look like?
I think that's the first thing they need to work on. And I think that's what I have really drilled in over the last few weeks, well, actually last few months, but especially the last few weeks, It's what relationship do I have with myself? And I think that has had a very positive impact. I really like myself. I really enjoy my company. I really, really like who I am. I think and that's beyond the judgments. I think this is something that I've learned through hardship, actually, the hard way. You cannot allow other people's judgments about you impact you. You have to like you, irrespective of what other people judge you to be. Some people see me as a very good mother. Others see me as, like I'm too easygoing and I'm too, I'm not, I'm not religious enough. I get judgments from both sides, right? Too conservative, not conservative enough. And you have to let go of those judgments and just like yourself, to be really happy in your skin, in your current body shape, in your current age. There's no point in me in 40s running after, trying to look like someone in the 20s. That's never going to happen. Why would I want that? Being happy in your, age and the way you are and who you are. This is a concept which I thought I knew, but it's dawned on me that I somehow put it on a shelf. Like, let me be a businesswoman first and forget being a woman. And then I really am just introducing myself to that and just enjoying and going out with my friends. It's a time that I've given to myself. Before I would say I haven't got the time. I'd rather do the work. I've got work to do. Now I make the time to go out with my friends, my female friends. I think this is very important when you are looking to grow yourself and having the confidence to live your authentic life. Would you say?
I would say I wish you would dream in all 12 areas of your life. I think that unless you're answering a question of like you are still limiting how expansive you could be by going, okay, I'll add one area, right? Instead of dreaming like in all 12 areas of your life, right? Okay. And then the language of your own dream for yourself will surprise you because you haven't answered the question yet. And so if you don't have a question that you then are asking yourself to answer, you will not think of it, right? So the higher self is a domain of, if you don't ask it, it can't share how are you going to know, right? So getting people to talk about what they most want or how they want to feel or what's possible in 3 years, right? In your career, in money, in your relationship to yourself, in your health, in your relationship with your family, in your relationship to friends, community. So there's all these areas. And then when you start to write it, you'll see that you actually have plenty of dreams, right? And then and even your relationship to time. So what also happens is everyone goes, I don't have time. As if time is this linear thing, like it is, right? And that's how the whole world works in minutes. Wait a minute. You can bump into someone you haven't seen in 20 years. You can meet one person sitting next to them on a train. You could get offered a job that changes your life. But if you don't have the dream of everything you are aspiring for, you won't even have that conversation with the person on the train.
Yeah.
Right. So to make the coincidences happen that are possible on Earth, you really have to have a level of dream to go with your faith.
Wonderful. Wonderful. On that note, I think we're going to wrap this up. I think we need to talk more about the 12 areas. We'll have a bit more conversation about that in the next episode. But for today, thank you so much. Lauren, tell us, how can we connect with you? How can we find you on the internet?
I am Lauren Handel Zander, and I'm on Instagram. And my business is Inner.U.coach, and it's INNERU.coach.
Wonderful. So if you are listening to us on the podcast, then the links for Lauren will be in the show notes. And if you're watching us on YouTube, down below in the description section, we'll have the links for Lauren to go check her out and see how she can help you live a better, well-rounded life in all 12 areas of your life. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Lauren. We'll have to have you back on Main Talkies, but today, thank you so much for being our guest today.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you for joining me and Lauren today. I will be back with another amazing guest, finding out how they change their life by changing their mindset. Until the next time we meet, this is Gull signing off. Take care and bye for now.